Oh, Mia.
Yes.
This was, I thought it was such a weird one to submit, but could you please evaluate various magnetic and optical storage media?
Oh, I saw this one earlier. Like, this came in earlier in the run as well.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do it, but it was like it came in right before a whole bunch of stuff started happening at once. I was like, oh, it's gone forever. But it's not gone forever.
Yes.
So.
Yes, I can. If the person is in chat and has any specific things,
I would like you to start with mini disc if you could.
Yeah. They just said magnetic and optical storage media.
Well, okay, I've not really studied the individual ones specifically, but I know way more about magnetic things because I wrote a whole paper on it. But both of them are good. Optical media is a little more stable.
Do you have a favorite?
Things. No. Well, I mean, I'm the kind of weirdo who's like, my favorite is the weirdest, most obscure one. When I went back to JPL in 2016 at Christmas to tour, I was just like captivated by the scale one-to-one recreation of the magnetic drive that's on the Galileo spacecraft, and I was like, look, it's adorable! Because that's what happens when you go to grad school. But I will tell my favorite story about magnetic preserving magnetic media, which is that I wrote a whole paper on how to preserve computer tapes, and like the big reel-to-reel computer tapes. And I found this technical manual that went through the, ideal humidity conditions and the heat fluctuations that you're not supposed to exceed, and, what you're supposed to keep things in to prevent them, from succumbing to vinegar syndrome and everything. And there was a whole bunch of questions and answers that these scientists had done to compile this manual, which was, I think, maybe a government manual from the 70s.
Okay.
And it was, given a fire, so many feet away, can these things, survive in such and such conditions? But my favorite question, which I'll never forget, is, given a junkyard-style electromagnet, the type that would lift up cars, if someone were to steal one and turn it on and drive by a tape storage facility, would it erase all the tapes?
Right. So
the natural, way to answer this was to go to a junkyard and bother the very nice junk van and say, can we borrow your electromagnet?
And wipe out everyone's storage.
And they said yes. And I see two questions that I will get to. But the conclusion was no, but mostly because there was no, minivan that could handle both the weight and the energy requirements for an electromagnet. So no, unfortunately, you could not pull a Saturday morning cartoon villain and steal a panel van and drive by, but only because it wouldn't actually work. So
it's not just a huge horseshoe magnet with big red tips on the end they use to wipe out cars?
No, it's like the round thing. Yeah. So two questions I saw. So one was, what is vinegar syndrome? So, let's see. Yeah. When magnetic media, the way that it's bound together, I think it's the binder. So, magnetic media is all of these little magnetic particles that are suspended in a binder that'll keep them solid and aligned the right way. I believe it's when the binder starts to break down due to humidity, it releases the smell of vinegar. That's how you know that
your media's bad.
Your tapes are going kind of bad. And then why magnetic tapes are used for archival storage. I mean, they aren't necessarily standard, but magnetic media is, as long as you keep it pretty solidly preserved, it's decently stable. The nice thing about like Grim Fandango was able to happen because they had tape backups of everything. Right. They needed to find a player, but they did eventually in a dumpster. And yes, it is possible to erase magnetic tape, Fight Club style. And yes, it is the acetate turning into acetic acid cycle boy, I think that is. Yeah, that is that.
Awesome.
Hooray!
Thank you so much, Mia.
I know way too much about one thing.
It's, well, because the thing that I'm curious about too is like when I think of optical media, I think of like a CD
Yep.
or DVD or Blu-ray, like
Yep.
obviously as a disc. Does that come in any other kind of format, or are they just all discs?
Yeah, they're basically all discs that I've seen anyway.
And so, because most compact discs are like when you print them at a factory, they're printed from an actual, like a master
Yep.
that has like the grooves and everything written into it and it's stamped onto the plastic.
Yeah.
But all CDRs are just a whole bunch of amorphous whatever that is written over,
Yeah.
and they're not so good.
Yeah, print all your stuff out. Paper is
Thank you,
still by
Adrian.
far the most stable thing.
That we actually
Just
have.
do it.